welcome to another edition of the program Sunrise with Hawadana, a program where we talk about issues of the moment, we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about education. On today's edition of the program, I have with me here an amazing personality here.
By name, Professor Muhammad Nuhu, the Shetima of Niger and former Hon.Commissioner for Tertiary Education in Niger State.
It's nice to have you on the show, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. You're welcome.
So, as a former Commissioner of Education in Niger State, when you talk about education, what comes to your mind?
For me, personally and philosophically, I look at education as freedom. I look at education as development. I look at education as growth. And I also view education as the only innovative means to attain whatever vision anyone set for himself, or nation or state.
Okay.
Yes.
You just defined education and you were able to give us a clearer explanation, which I feel many people who watch this interview are going to pick one or two from your definition. Talking about education also, what are the importance of education?
It cannot be overemphasized
Okay.
when you talk about the importance and benefit of education. Because they link together. The importance is sincerely in the knowing of trying ignorance. Ultimately, when you look at the importance of education, you look at nations that have grown. You see developing countries, you see growth, you see prosperity, and above all, you see the bounties of riches in the society and the endowment and harnessing from such endowments vis-a-vis the creativity, innovative nature, and the strategic development that are noticeable. These are the relevance and the importance of education.
Okay. Let's look at the youth today in the society. How do you think it's important to involve the youth? Do you think it's important to involve them in the education sector?
Well, it's absolutely very relevant and necessary to involve the youth. Most especially at this auspicious moment when you have the youth moving at jet speeds. When you look at the incoming generation, I'm sorry to use that word because everything about the present generation is about being on the fast track. The missing gap is actually the mentorship. We need to ensure that the younger generation are carried along to know the basic parameters, to have the patience, to have the morality, to have the doggedness, as well as the perseverance to pursue education. I have said it earlier on, education opens doors. It is only through education the poor person from the deepest interior part of the bush can rub shoulder to shoulder with the richest person coming from the highest developed country. It's only education that can give this impetus of equality. Therefore, the youth, to large extent, need to be encouraged to pursue education by way of giving the opportunities, because there is a paradigm shift from what used to be in those days. In those days, it is you that have to find your way. You need to identify the opportunities. You actually need to underscore the relevance by yourself. Vis-a-vis, nobody was there for anyone. That's the kind of generation I belong to. But today, even with scholarship, you see students, younger generation messing up. You see them not doing too well. Sometimes you just have to push and push and push. Simplify the processes and to encapsulate their interests. So there is a greater need to really go back to the drawing board to see how we can actually mentor the younger generation, change their mindsets. Principally, the mindset is really at its lowest art.
Talking about changing the mindset,
yes.
Do you think education can change the mindset of the youth?
Obviously, if we're able to bring back some of the good things that were there in those days. I attended a secondary school that was being manned by a white man, where of course food was not an issue. Basic needs was available. Books were available. We were encouraged to go to the library. But these days, it is highly expensive. And scholarships were available, were paid as I went to. So the mindsets of this younger generation is that, and even their parents to some extent, is that you send child to a school, you pay for something, it comes out, no job to do, nothing to show for it. In those days, before you finish your NC, for those who went through this, a job is waiting for you. And of course, you are entitled to a 504 Peugeot car loan. Even though we know the times have changed, the cost of living now is high. As at 1980, a Peugeot car 504 was just barely below 5,000 naira. That's not even enough for a plate for a lunch.
Yes.
So we really need to change the mindset and then start to think out of the box, to do things not the usual way. The present time situation demands for present time solutions. We really need to see which direction is the younger generation going. What are those things we'll be able to match up to see that they are encouraged? And creativity is the way to go. One of these is what you're doing now. I try to resist it, but your perseverance left you no choice than to actually participate. And of course, that's the way to encourage. There are many other talents. I'm one of such person that believe that no human being created without talent. Every soul, every life that exists on this earth has one hidden talent or the other. What is essential is for that person to discover his hidden treasure. We have various dexterities. What matters is how are we able to really identify these hidden potentials? How then are we able to pursue these potentials? And like I keep saying, the way to go is education. Everything is education. Whatever you think about agriculture, you will not succeed if you don't have the right education. Because there are researches that has come up. The younger generation will not go into manual farming. What then do we need to provide for them? It's not just to say you're giving them the money. No. Give them the implement. Simplify the process for them. Give them the education. Give them the high yielding seeds. And within the very small hectare, you don't even need large hectare to cultivate. You get a bounty harvest. So it is the mindset. We need to really come out from our previous shells. And this cut across all generations. And of course, the younger ones should be attended to. They need time, even though we know they are restless.
Thinking about the younger ones needing time, using Niger State as an example, let's look at this youth restiveness. Do you think lack of education contributes to it?
Absolutely. Everything. You see, if you don't invest in education, you will now invest in fighting the menace from lack of investing in education. That is obviously very necessary. No government, in fact, the first thing every government should fight, invest, do, and carry it on is to invest in education. Because it has a multiplier effect.
That brings us to the challenges of affecting education. Does lack of investment in education one of the top issues?
Absolutely. In fact, if you look at United Nations, provisions of which were signatory to the charters, we are expected to invest not less than 26% of the annual budget for the state. We hardly get up to 10%, and even when you get it being allocated, to release on it is another thing entirely. You hardly get up to 2-3% that is releases. And of course, that's why we are suffering from all what is going on. In those days, even when some of us were coming up, because there was massive investment in education, the way to go was education. And you could see the effect, the impact that it created. There were a lot of provisions for talent sport. There was, people excelling in different endeavors. So lack of investment in education means investing in countering the menace therefrom. And that is the worst of it. Because after fighting from the rear, trying to combat the menace, then of course you start going back to build on such education. And it costs more. It's just like building a skyscraper and then you have to demolish it to go and repackage the foundation. That's exactly what we're doing. So the way to go, the first thing first is education. Look at our primary education today. There's nothing to write home about. I can tell you, if you take for instance Niger State, we have almost half of the local governments at the interior. Primary and secondary education is nearly non-existent. And I give you an example. About 8 wards in Shiro local government, for instance, have no access today to public education because of banditry and so many things. If you go to Paikoro, it's the same thing. There are lots of, if you go to Muya, it's the same thing. It's affecting Rafi local government, Mariga local government, as you see, and many other places. Now, the effect will not be seen today. In the next 10 years, this younger generation have grown, become mature. Now, they will start to create things for themselves, whether negative or positive. And usually it's the negative. Because they don't have the requisite education, they are not useful to themselves. So the way to go is actually to ensure that the younger generation goes to school and at affordable rates. When you open up accessibility, you have to make it affordable, and also you have to make it in such a way that it will encourage. The school environment should be better than the home environment the child comes from because of retention element. That should encourage a child or a pupil to stay in school because he knows the school aesthetically is better than the home he's coming from. And even the school feeding efforts that are being made, which is cherry, but the implementation is very poor. You discover the amount of money being spent does not equate to the outcome of such things that is being done. And we need to do post-mortem. Our monitoring and evaluation is at its lowest level. Once money is given, nobody cares what comes, and every day we talk about corruption. So the way to go is to ensure that there is effective monitoring and evaluation, and there is effective planning as well as delivery. In those days, the secondary school I attended was such a way that people come from all walks of life, all across the federation, including the interior. Today we have medical doctors, we have so many people who have excelled, we have professors who have this. It wasn't because, our parents paid for. Government provided. And facilities were available. Today the reading culture is near zero because we have not been able to utilize the advent of the social media. If we were to bombard it with educational materials. This has to be deliberate. It will forces the children to have option from the movies and the educational materials. And it to encourage learning. If you go to India education today, they use the YouTube, they use everything for every subject you can take. 70% of the products are free. Even our children today, we encourage them to utilize the YouTube there. You see a lecturer investing his time, teaching in a particular subject and sending it on the YouTube. And he has series of these things. And what are we doing? We're in the age of IE.
But is that the responsibility of the government? Isn't it a collective responsibility also? Like the lecturers, some of them.
Well, you see, when the lecturer has nothing to take home, what time has he to contribute to the social space? When he's inundated with so many distractions, what time has he in this country to really contribute? In India, the highest paid civil servant is a lecturer. In Germany, the highest paid is a lecturer. It was IQ Golem Angela Merkel, when she was the Chancellor of Germany as the head of government. She pays the lecturer the highest, more than herself. When she was asked why, she said no, every other person was taught by a lecturer. Now here, a lecturer goes home with less than 400,000, for instance, a professor at that matter. Now, looking at the reality on ground, he has social pressure. That's why some lecturers have to involve in adjunctship here and there, running from pillar to post, trying to complement living. Basic, essential living should not be a problem to a primary school teacher, should not be a problem to a secondary school teacher, should not be a problem to a tertiary education teacher. These should be well compensated so that you have the mindset to concentrate to give out the deliverables and to assess the learners' outcomes. But you have pressure from the home front. Your wife will call you, no Maggie, nothing, and everything. Your salary is finished at the second week or first week. That's not good enough. Look at the countries that are doing these things. You will notice that they take care of their teachers very well. And then they give them all the necessary support. As a professor, you are supposed to have research assistants. And these are paid for. Now you will be the one to do the basic preliminary research, you do this, you do that, and then you can't go the extra mile. Otherwise, we're supposed to dominate the social media with educative way of teaching. So that if you missed any class, you go on the social space, you compensate. And like I was trying to say, we're in the era of IE, artificial intelligence. Which today, how many secondary school students or people will you ask and they'll tell you about this? This is already happening at primary school level in developed countries and developing countries. They know how to utilize the processes of it, the machine, the operation, name it. And this synthesizes, and then our education policy is such a way that has need to be directed to have particular focus. If we are focusing on science and technology, what are the deliverables? How practical are they? How simplified are they? And then what's the incentive? We must create the incentives for the off-takers to take. When you do researches, are the industry willing to buy? What's the policy of government encouraging or enforcing the industry to buy the researches and to use the outcomes from these researches? Most of these outcomes of these researches are there in the shelves. And eventually what happens? They end up there, nobody utilizes them, nobody practicalizes them. And that's why we're where we are. Primary education is in shambles. Unless and until we're able to go back to the drawing board. In fact, I challenge you at the close of school hour Go to Bosso Road in Mina here and see the population and we'll check the classes and ask any one of them what have they learned for their particular day. One class, you have over 200 population. No matter how energetic a teacher is, how will you cope? That's not implementable. We're only sitting on a time bomb if we cannot come back and invest in education. And education has many attributes that are shaping the economy of the country. Everyone is taught by a teacher. A medical doctor, a lawyer, or whatever, you go through a training of the process of being incubated to become an expert that you are today. So it's not a good phenomenon where you get up there, you throw the ladder that you use a riding. So if we're serious about development, if we're serious about making progress that is genuine, if we are serious about creating impact, if we are serious about innovation and development, we must massively invest in education.
Thank you very much, sir. It's been a wonderful session with you, sir, and I actually had an interactive session, which me myself, I was lost in the conversation. I believe with what you said, I believe the government will take it up from there and do more.
Well, I hope so, because the government is not that it's lacking in ideas, but our problem in governance has always been continuity.
Yes.
Every leader wants to start afresh. We don't want to build on the successes of
the previous administration.
Everyone wants to start from scratch. And 4 years, 8 years is not sufficient for it to reach maturity stage. So what I will call on everyone is to ensure that governance is continual. There should be continuity in policy, there should be continuity in governance, and we should be able to have a development plan for the state. Beside the Vision 3-2020, we have not had another document. And how do we follow them? Even that Vision 3-2020 was not fully implemented. So, because the government of the governors that initiated the vision, expires. So, what we need to do, that document is rich in all sectors. So, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to spend so much money. I appreciate the vision of some leaders where they come with crazy thoughts, energy, but of course the way to go is to actually complement and sustain some policies that are really good. The ones that are not too good, what you need to do, you review them, and see what has happened to them. Why are they not, performing? Then you are able to inject new ideas, and then we move forward. So, but sincerely, we cannot make progress if each government that comes, start all over with different vision, with different perspectives. Yes, you might have your blueprint. There's nothing stopping from looking at what is existing. And that's one thing that one must commend the present government, the Bagbo administration. It's going back in the last 8 years or thereabout to pick up some policies that were dropped, which are really good. What I would urge the government to do is to dust off the Vision 3-2020. Look at the policy on education, look at the policy on agriculture, look at the policy on all sectors, and then see those things that can be extended. If you look at Lagos State, for instance, they have been able since 1999 to sustain policy continuation, and they keep on extending the lifespan of a particular policy, and it's giving them results. And there has been seamless continuity and successes. Every administration in Lagos State, you see a lot of build-up. In fact, it has come to a state that you can't jettison it. You must key in into the vision and then expand it further. That's what we're supposed to do. Because Niger State has about 10%, of this country. If you divide Nigeria into 10, you take 1%. So it's massive. Not just the land, even the people. We have a lot of innovative people, a lot of resource, human resource that we can utilize. They are doing quite well in different endeavors. The problem is to harness them, and then we're able to fine tune and see how we can make the good out of them, so that for the betterment of the state. I so much believe in the slogan of Bago, together we can make it. It's doable, but we must have a conviction from our individual hearts. If we don't have the conviction, we don't have the mindset, we cannot do it. Before we realize 4 years will come and pass, 8 years will come and pass, another set will come, and we keep on repeating the same thing and remaining in one place. But I believe with what is happening with the recent Green Summit, what that summit need to encapsulate is to move further to subsume the Vision 322. You'll be able to see, and then there should be clear deliverables in all the sectors.
From the summit yesterday, what were you able to pick from the summit? Do you think the aim of the summit was achieved?
Well, you see, because a lot of political dimensions were brought into it. To a large extent, we can say yes, it succeeded, because some of the permanent secretaries and key MDAs were made mandatory for them to stay throughout. But right from the beginning, the participant clustering was deficient. And we believe that what we need to do now is to break down this summit to the lower level. At MDA levels, those who participated this 2-day summit should be seen as train the trainers. Now let them go back to their various MDAs and then scale it down, for their own various MDA to key in, to really participate. Let them have 2, 3, in fact a week summit at each MDA. Use the presentations that were showcased, use the resources that were presented and used, and then cascade it down to the lowest person, to the office assistant. Let them understand the potential the state has, and then contribute positively. Then also cascade it down to the business community in the state, because they were not really part of it. I identified that gap. The market people who are quite educated, who control the economy, were missing. The real farmers, were missing. Well, we have educated farmers who were captured, but see, we really need to take it to the grassroots. This needs to be done even at the various 25 local governments. Let there be a kind of committee that are resourceful, that understood the mission, the vision of the summit, and let them be used as a resource person to build up at the local government levels. Let there be smaller summits at the 25 local governments with the vision of imparting this knowledge, awareness, and then also, setting out the parameters of implementation. There should be an implementation plan. In the next, for instance, 1 year, what do you want to have achieved as a result of this summit? And that should be followed up with M&Es. And eventually, that will also be duplicated in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years. Then before the exit of the 4 years, there should be a statewide review summit to look at it holistically, and then see areas that have pitfalls, areas that have gaps, and then identify how it will be filled. Then the next 4 years of the administration will now be entirely implementation. Before you know, the impact will be everywhere visible. We appreciate the fact that the young farmers are being encouraged, with the endowment funds that the governor launched yesterday, in terms of making it a seal money for the agricultural young farmers who have access to 1 million naira. I wish and I hope it shouldn't just be in cash. That should be translated to farm implements. So that, and then little encouragement so that they will not be abused or be used in another things differently. You know, if it is tied to the aim that such money will be dispersed, that will be a very good one. We are lucky in the state to have a commissioner for agriculture who has been on the NGO side. He has been doing well in terms of promoting agriculture. If his talent will be utilized in putting this forward, I think we will achieve greater success.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. You're welcome. I appreciate it.
So that brings us to the end of today's edition of the program, Sunrise with Hawa Dana. And on today's edition of the program, we've been here with our educationist, Professor Muhammad Tachi, who has taken us into the world of education, the importance of education, and also how we can tackle youth restiveness and encourage the youth also in Niger State in terms of education and how to make a positive impact also. I hope you were able to learn one or two from the interview of today. We'll meet again next time.